So,
He did her car. Yeah.
so you're talking about energy policy in there. What do you think is the ideal energy policy that we should be working on, and especially if we go back to the Senate next month and start working on it there? What needs to happen?
Well, I think that one of the things I've worked on, I've been on the Energy and Environment Committee for a long time, and Environment and Public Works Committee. And one of the things that I think is missing is the fact that we haven't harmonized our environment, our energy, our economy, and our national security. And I think the most important thing that we can do as Americans is to get into a room, understand that we have a symbiotic relationship, and see if we can't come up with a compromise that will move this country forward in terms of an energy policy that will put us in a position where we're the least reliant country in the world on energy, on oil, and at the same time understand that we're going to have to go after every drop of oil that we can responsibly get a hold of, so that we reverse this trend of buying almost $700 billion worth of oil from countries, many of whom really don't like us. And the other problem, and I think that it's one that the American people should think about, and particularly some of the environmentalists, and that is that if somebody else controls the ingredient, the most important ingredient in your country, and that one of them is oil. If we had a shut-off of oil, our economy would come to its knees. But at the same time, the same people who we're sending money to are also buying our debt, like the OPEC nations. You're in a situation where somebody controls the cost of a product that's very important to you, and then they control your debt. And under ordinary circumstances, when that happens, they put you out of business. And so we need to send a message out throughout the world that we're dead serious about going after every drop, again, that we can responsibly get environmentally. Second of all, that we're going to have an Apollo project where we are going to become the least reliant on oil of any nation in the world. 3, we're going to do everything we can in terms of conservation. And I think that just that message, if they know we're serious, is going to send a ripple across the OPEC nations, and you're going to see that price of oil a little bit less than what it is today. I don't think it's going to go back to what we wanted before, because the demand is so enormous today. But I think it would set this table for a more responsible kind of policy in terms of oil around the world.
And you mentioned in there oil shale, and I know that's one of the things that folks are talking about now, tapping into. But there's a lot of expense concerns and resource concerns. I mean, do you think that is a possible solution?
Well, first of all, I think that the people on the other side of the aisle are preventing the Department of Energy to just allow regulations to be set up in terms of how you go after that oil there. And as a member of the Senate, we've been having like rum sessions, and I chaired a committee that had people then talking about batteries and where we are with batteries, and also the U.S. President of Shell. And they have been doing drilling on their own property in terms of shale oil, and the technology has really advanced from what it was before. And I don't know what the cost would be to lift it, but I think he talked about $85 to lift it. And if oil stays up the way it is, we can go after that. We have 3 times the amount of reserves in terms of oil shale than the Saudi Arabians have. So it's logical that we ought to take advantage of that opportunity. We also ought to take advantage of coal to liquids, Fischer Straub. The technology is as old as the Germans. The Germans used it in the Second World War to fuel their war machine. They didn't have oil, and so they took coal and converted it to liquid. And there's an effort in this country to prevent us from going forward with that, even though our Defense Department desperately would like to see this thing move forward, because it's some way of their being secure in terms that they'll have the jet fuel they'll need in the event that we get into a jam.
And now, on the climate issue, you put forward your own bill last year. Yeah. What can we expect from you in the future on climate legislation, and what do we expect in the Senate period? And we had some debate over climate legislation this year.
Well, the problem is, as you know, if you followed it, that the chairman of the committee really didn't give the committee the time to really vet this, particularly putting it on a committee before the Environmental Protection Agency and the Energy Information Agency made their decision. and as a result of that, it wasn't successful. And I'm working with Jeff Dingaman and others to come up with a program that's not going to shut the economy down, and also involve the Chinese, who are emitting greenhouse gases. They're putting 2 coal-fired plants on every two per week. Okay, we could stop all of our greenhouse gases, and if we don't engage the Indians, the Chinese, we're not going to make it. And I'd like to see a public diplomacy effort made by the next president of the United States to the Chinese to admit we are emitters, that we're going to set goals in terms of reducing our emissions, and we're going to spend the money to go after the best and brightest minds in the world to get the technology so we can capture and sequester carbon.
Ready, sir? We gotta go.
One quick one.
Go ahead. One last one.
So a lot of folks in the Republican Party have been apprehensive in the past to address this climate issue. Do you think the party is ready to address it at this point? And
well,
what is the world making
one of
play
the
in
things
that?
is that I'm the father of the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. I've been very involved over the years. I'm an environmentalist, and I there's an urgency for us to deal with climate change. Okay, but this cap and trade, the way this thing worked out, it was a bureaucratic nightmare. The EPA had to hire 400 new people in order to implement the program, and I'm absolutely confident that if we can work on this, we can get the job done much quicker than what was proposed by Barbara Boxer and Joe Lieberman
And John Warner.
Oh, and John will. Okay. The fact of the matter is that we're going to really try to see if we can't get 60 votes or something to move us ahead. There's an urgency. I want it to happen, and we can do it without destroying the Ohio economy. If this bill had passed, we'd have seen our electric rates go up 50%. We'd have seen our natural gas costs go up 80%. We've seen gasoline go up 30%. So we don't want to do that. And at the same time, it ignored, frankly, doing anything about the Chinese or other emitters until originally it was, I think, 2020, and then they moved it up to 2014. So we have a challenge, and there are, I think, some really fine people that are working on this, and we care, and hopefully we're going to get something done.
All right, sir, we got to go here.
Thank you, sir.